welcome to series of advanced Java tutorials. So in this tutorials, we're actually going to see what exactly is JDBC, and we're also going to see what is servlets and JSPs. So let's get started with JDBC and stuff. So later on, we'll look into what exactly is servlets and JSP. Yeah. So what is JDBC? So JDBC is nothing but from the abbreviation standpoint or the full form standpoint, it's Java database connectivity. Okay, so a Java program be interacting with database and performing some operations on the database, whether it is creating the tables, okay, or updating the data, or selecting the data, even deleting the data. So which would be usually referred as CRUD. Okay, we are going to see in detail, right? So this is the introductory session. Okay, and we're also going to see what exactly is the brief history of data storage. So yeah, so let's get started on the same topics. The first point, brief history of data storage. Before the invent of databases, right? So we used to store the data in the file system only. Okay, before even computers coming into picture, we used to store data in the form of paper, right? But later, with the advent of database or the computers, so we came across a new technology called as database. Okay, and later on we are going to store the data into the databases, and we can, it gives us more flexibility, right? So let us consider that in the organizations, in the government organizations especially, you know uh, before 10 years or 20 years, so how the things are organized. So let us consider an example of a government hospital, okay, wherein a baby was born, and we need to register his details, and we need to give him date of birth certificate or something like that, and we need to register his entry into the hospital, right? So then we used to get a birth certificate in the form of paper, and the administrators in the hospital are going to note down his details in the form of they are going to capture his details in the form of paper, right? So down the line, post 20 years, I might need birth certificate, and I need to go to the hospital and approach that administrator. Hey boss, I was born in this hospital and I need a data, birth certificate. So he needs to go back in time 20 years down the line, and he has to get my details, right? So consider that they are going to organize in the rack, in the form of racks. For every year they are going to maintain a rack, and they used to maintain the register. So it would take at least a lot of time. uh, Nevertheless, so if we store the data in the databases, right, we can get the information within fraction of seconds, right? So I see that you got my point. So that powerful the database systems are, right? So most of the applications, even in the government sector, are getting digitized. So they are not going to capture details in the paper, in the registers. So they are going to maintain a database, and they are going to maintain all these details. So I hope the example was clear. So brief history of data storage is nothing but earlier they used to maintain the paper. Now they are all the paperwork is getting converted into databases. All the paperwork is getting digitized actually, right? So that's the history. So papers was the first place. Okay, later on, with the advent of computers, we got into file system, and later on top of file system, they have developed a component called as database. Even database is going to store the data, its data, in the form of files only. But which human will not be able to understand. Only the database software would be able to read the data from those database files. So even databases are going to store the data in the files, right? So why do we need to store data into database? The second point. So yeah, in the so I would like to refer back to my previous example, wherein it makes our life easy, right? So it's easy to store the data, it's easy to retrieve the data, right? And it's easy to even update the data. So let us consider that down the line, before 1.5 year to maybe 3 years back. So if I wanted to update my Aadhaar details, right, so I need to go to a e-seva center, and I need to fill in a form, and then only I will be able to submit my uh, you know update request to other other application, and they are going to update the details. So complete process would take a lot of time. But when it is online, right, so we would be able to quickly do the things from our end only. So I can even raise a request, and if I submit proper proofs, it's going to get updated within no time, right? So that much, with the advent of computer technology and online and databases, so it made our lives easy. So it's easy to store the data, it's easy to retrieve the data, it is easy to update the data, right? So yeah, in that way we can easily, it makes our life simple and approachable, right? So now comes the question, what is database? Database, you know it's a place where the data gets resides. So data gets resides in the form of tables, right? And in the form of database objects, not in the form of files or anything like that. So yeah, database is nothing but it's a place where we can store the data. So you name any of the application, so everything is going to have a database, right? So database is nothing but it's a place where the data gets resides, and we'll be able to process the data from the database, right? So yeah. So, and one thing I would like to clearly tell in this introductory session itself is that it's not database sessions. So these are going to be mainly concentrated on the JDBC thing. So database is like a prerequisite, but I'll take you through some of the components which are required. I'll take you through the basics of the database, okay? And I'll make sure that you don't see any problem. So and if you wanted to get in-depth knowledge on the database, right, so you can refer any of Oracle or MySQL documentation, so that from there you can get. But I'll try to cover as much as I can, but this is not explicitly for database things. And yeah, so database is like Oracle, MySQL, and there are so many number of databases from big shots of this software industry. So we have Oracle database, which is very popular, and MySQL, which is subsidiary to Oracle, and we have SQL Server, which is from Microsoft, okay? And yeah, and Teradata, uh, it's like a revolution these days. So Teradata is also one of the databases, right? So what is JDBC? Now comes the point. So what exactly is JDBC? JDBC is nothing but Java database connectivity. So database is the component, okay? So we are going to connect to the database using some Java program, right? So that's on a whole, that's the definition of JDBC. And we are going to see the in detail architecture, and what are different drivers we are going to interact with Oracle and MySQL, okay? And we are also going to see how to store the data, update the data, delete the data, retrieve the data, right? And we're also going to perform some stored procedure operations, okay? And we are going to invoke the stored procedure from our Java program. So on a whole, this is like complete end-to-end tutorial on JDBC, and we're also going to see database connection pool, which is the advanced topic, and we are also going to see some of the internal details as well. And yes, so, and that's the agenda of this particular JDBC tutorial. And yeah, so that's what I just wanted to take you through the introductory session, this particular session. And we are going to see in detail um, programs from the next tutorial onwards. And I'll also take you through the brief of I'll also give you a brief on Oracle database and MySQL database on some of the create statements, okay? And yes, i'll take I'll take you through all of the components which are required for JDBC. And yes, thanks everyone, thanks for your time, happy learning.